It is, in a sense, you could describe it as being the technological side of the Greek miracle.
How can a scrap astonish scientists? A strange device was found in the sea near a quiet Greek island. Once dismissed as scrap metal, turned out to be something far more advanced. The Antikythera Mechanism, with its complex gears and celestial tracking, defied everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. Recently, researchers used AI to analyze ancient texts and astronomical records. What it uncovered shocked everyone. It wasn't just a tool for stargazing.
It is a machine for predicting the motions of the heavens.
Is this to warn of repeating cosmic cycles? The Antikythera Mechanism mystery has finally been solved by AI, and the truth is far more terrifying than anyone imagined. The code hidden in bronze. In 1901, sponge divers off the coast of Antikythera, Greece, found what appeared like a big piece of rusty bronze and wood. At first, it looked like the remains of an old shipwreck, just some rubble that had been lost at sea. But inside that lump were gears, cogs, and wheels that were perfectly designed and different from anything else from that time. Researchers then learned that this wasn't simply ancient rubbish. It was a very advanced machine that was considerably more advanced than anything that was assumed to exist in 100 BCE. The Antikythera Mechanism is now one of the most puzzling technical puzzles in history. For decades, they sought to figure it out.
This single object, it's such a clever, extraordinary, sophisticated machine. Completely shocking.
Early studies labeled it an ancient Greek computer that was used to make predictions about what would happen in the sky. But a lot of the machine's parts were missing, and rust made it practically hard to figure out how it operated on the inside. Researchers couldn't agree on what all the gears accomplished, even with the help of modern imaging tools like X-rays and CT scans. Some people assumed it tracked the sun and moon, while others said it told people when the Olympics and eclipses would happen. There were a lot of thoughts, but no one could see the whole thing. Everything changed in 2025 when a group of engineers and historians trained a highly advanced AI model how to use the device. This AI researcher didn't look at old texts or theories about the past like people do. It was given a lot of information about how gears work, how to design machines, and how the sky works. This was utilized to construct a replica of the missing portions, and they tested millions of various combinations until everything made sense with what was going on in the world. The AI restored functions that had been lost over time and showed that the system could keep track of solar eclipses, lunar phases, planetary alignments, and even certain days on the calendar.
It tracks the movements of the planet. It's a geared, cogged system that allows you to track the passage of time.
The most surprising part? It was exactly right. The Antikythera Mechanism could tell when lunar and solar eclipses will happen within a few hours. It knew where Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn were, which are planets that can be seen with the naked eye. But here's the twist. The AI reconstruction displayed gear settings for Uranus and Neptune, two planets that the ancient eye couldn't see. It wasn't until 1781 that Uranus was officially found, not until 1846 for Neptune. But somehow, this instrument, which was made more than 2,000 years ago, contained calculations that were linked to those planets. This news changed everything. Who made this mechanism to track the movements of Uranus and Neptune if the ancient Greeks didn't know they existed? It points to either a source of knowledge we've lost or a builder who is altogether different. The effects go well beyond Greece. Did a civilization that we don't remember have astronomical tools that we've never found? Or did they learn what they know from someone or something else? This isn't just high-tech engineering, it's information that shouldn't be there at that time. The AI also saw strange gear ratios that didn't match any known Greek dates. Instead, they matched up with the lunar cycles in Mesopotamia and the solar festivals in Egypt. This meant that astronomical systems from many cultures were coming together and being put into one apparatus. We felt such level of exchanging data between countries didn't exist back then. The AI brought up a scary idea. Either there was an unknown civilization that brought this information together, or this was the last piece of technology from an ancient worldwide culture. Even more worrying, the device's alignment data went thousands of years into the future, which is much longer than what would be needed for everyday life. It had information about cosmic events that were going to happen in the 3000s, and even kept track of strange things happening in the sky. Scientists nowadays still don't fully understand these events. Why would an old tool be able to chart the skies that far ahead? Was it merely an interest in astronomy, or a warning for others who would view it in the future? AI cracked the Antikythera's gears, and what it revealed threatens to rewrite science, astronomy, and everything we know about time. The secrets behind the gears. The Antikythera mechanism is from about 100 BCE, yet the technology it uses is thousands of years too early. The gears within aren't just for show, they work, are measured, and are mathematically correct. People weren't supposed to be able to manufacture this kind of engineering until the 1400s, when European clockmakers finally came up with designs that were similar. The mechanism used advanced gear ratios, some of which had teeth that were only 1 millimeter broad. This showed that it was much more precise than what old instruments could do. The apparatus was hidden in a wooden box that was made to move like a mechanical brain, long before anyone thought of anything like that. Researchers used to think this was a one-time thing, but the notion fell apart when AI looked at the damaged writing on the rusted surfaces. Some of the letters were concealed behind layers of golden rust and dirt, making them impossible to read until recently. Historians were surprised by what the AI found. It included tiny Greek letters that said things like earlier works and adjustments in later models. The literature called this device a continuation, version 5 or 6 in a series. That indicates we haven't located the first one yet, or the third, or the second. The Antikythera mechanism may be the most elaborate example, but it wasn't the first. There must have been prior models, maybe even simpler ones, that led to this ultimate version. If that's true, this wasn't just a fortuitous idea. It was the end consequence of a long chain of new ideas that we have never seen or written down. This changes all we thought we knew about ancient science. We think that history marches ahead, not backward, but this technology seems to show the reverse. It wasn't based on simple ideas. It was improved, changed, and perfected over the years. It needs time, tradition, and a way to carry on complicated concepts, none of which were supposed to be in ancient Greece. We either don't have the documents, or we've gotten a big part of human development wrong. The complex arithmetic that is built into the gear ratios is much more worrying. The AI discovered that the device is based on the Metonic cycle, a lunar calendar that lasts 19 years and aligns moon phases to the solar year. The Saros cycle, which is used to predict eclipses, and the Callippic cycle, which is a 76-year improvement on lunar timekeeping, are also part of it. These weren't just hazy assumptions, they were precise, planned, and in line with how planets move. We assumed it took telescopes and hundreds of years of observation to learn these things. But Uranus and Neptune, which weren't formally discovered until 1781 and 1846, also show up, but not by name. Instead, they show up by their orbit and alignment. The mechanism has gear slots for planetary cycles that match the times it takes for these outer planets to go around the Sun. Without current optics, this shouldn't be possible. It means that someone spotted or figured things out long before they should have been able to. This is where the AI's results start to get strange. Some gear notches don't match anything we know of today. When you look at them next to star maps using software that simulates ancient skies, they seem random. These undiscovered gears line up with occurrences in the stars that happened more than 10,000 years ago, long before Greek civilization began. Could this technology have been based on records that are far older than we thought, passed down from a culture that came before it? That idea points to civilizations that are no longer around. It doesn't have to be Atlantis, but it should have infrastructure, knowledge, and astronomy. Maybe a culture was wiped off by a disaster or time, leaving behind just things like these. Most tools don't last for thousands of years, but bronze gears that are locked in a sunken ship in seawater might have a chance. And how many more versions were lost on land if this one was aboard a ship? It also makes you wonder why it was made. It didn't sail. It predicted eclipses, not tides. It wasn't religious because it didn't fit in with Greek temples. It wasn't for show. It was inside a box. It appears like it was built for someone who wanted to do long-term exact computations about the universe. Most people wouldn't care about that. It sounds more like something for scientists, researchers, or perhaps individuals who are preparing events in space. The AI even found gears that don't seem to have any use unless they were supposed to measure retrograde motion, which is when planets seem to travel backward in the sky. Astronomers today explain this with the use of elliptical orbits. They would have needed decades of recorded observations and maths to keep track of it in the ancient world. But here it is, built inside a machine from 100 BCE or before. This contraption doesn't just violate the timeline, it shatters it. Every gear, every inscription, and every calculation tells us the same thing. Someone, somewhere, knows a lot more than we ever thought possible. Either our history is wrong, or we're missing a huge part of the picture. And since the AI is now figuring out more, this enigma is just becoming deeper. Lost science or lost civilization? History shows us that technology moves in a straight line. We began out simple and become smarter over time. But the Antikythera mechanism turns that theory on its head. It was built in 100 BCE, yet its design is so advanced that it doesn't match with what we know about science. Some scientists now think it didn't just appear out of nowhere. It might be a remnant from a time that has been forgotten. This leads to something huge, a system of knowledge that existed long before what we term civilization began. For a long time, myths told stories about lost cities, golden periods, technology that had disappeared, and wisdom that was godlike. Historians dismissed those stories as make-believe. But now that this machine is so accurate and AI has found new things, old legends seem more real. The gears in the machine don't just move randomly. They follow cycles, patterns, and functions that go much beyond watching stars. And if there was one machine like this, what else might have been lost to time? The idea of a knowledge reset is becoming more popular. Civilizations may have gotten very smart, but then global calamities wiped them out. Floods, earthquakes, and cosmic catastrophes might all wipe out years of learning. As time goes on, legends about those civilizations turn into myths, and their technology rots in the ground. If there was a collapse, the Antikythera mechanism might be the sole thing that survived. This idea is quite similar to the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. About 12,800 years ago, Earth suddenly froze over, possibly because of a comet hitting it. That time was when many early cultures came to an end. There were major extinctions, and the weather was crazy. If people lived well before that event, they may have known more than we think they did. And if that's the case, their gadgets, like the Antikythera, might have let them keep an eye on threats from above. Now it gets more complicated. New AI scans show that the mechanism didn't only follow the sun and moon. It might have modeled the cycles of comets. Researchers now think that the machine's complicated gear system had information on long-period comets, since comets often come back in predictable ways. That would mean it's the oldest known warning system for astronomy. It's more than simply a calendar. It's a survival tool. Ancient people kept track of how comets moved, which suggests that they knew a lot about the sky that current science has just recently begun to understand. Different cultures around the world, from Chinese writings to Mayan carvings, have linked comets to catastrophe. People developed the Antikythera mechanism to watch and guess when such terrible returns would happen. Think about how terrible it would be to lose everything you own, including your house, family, and community, to a burning object in the sky. You'd want to build something to make sure it doesn't happen again, of course. Now think about this. What if this wasn't the original version of the machine? AI found faint engravings on areas of the device that were hidden, which suggests that it is version 5 or 6. That suggests a long history of making tools, maybe even a group of scientists or engineers who worked on them for generations. What happened to the others if we only discovered one? This leads us to a possibility that most historians won't touch, that we aren't the first civilization on Earth. We might be the second or the third. It's possible that high-tech cultures came before us, but fell apart because they couldn't stop calamities. Our monuments were taken over by them. Our stories become their histories. And what about their machines? Gone until now. AI traced identical tech in ancient China, Babylon, and Peru, proving history isn't wrong. It's been erased. The timeline collapse. The Antikythera mechanism isn't just a strange thing. It's part of a scary pattern. There are other ancient artifacts from all across the world that seem excessively advanced for their period. For example, the Baghdad battery looks like it can store electricity, and the Piri Reis map portrays Antarctica without ice. The Egyptian drill holes are made with such perfection that they reflect high-speed instruments that we don't usually think of when we think of ancient cultures. Then there are the Indian Vimanas, which are flying machines that were described in antique literature and sound like early planes. AI recently looked at the design of the Antikythera mechanism and found that it was related to other old things in ways that were surprising. It saw that different sections of the world used the same measurements, gear ratios, and even the same alloys. These designs are similar to those on metal objects from Babylon, ancient China, and South America before Columbus. There was a reason for this. The study of computers exposes a hidden strategy that was shared by cultures that were separated by oceans and, some say, centuries. How might civilizations that never met have the same technological roots? It makes us ponder how long it takes for people to grow. Most people believe that civilizations that were far away didn't start trading and talking to one another until the last few hundred years. These artifacts, on the other hand, point to something older and bigger, a lost connection between the whole planet. There may have been a shared beginning point in the distant past, long before our textbooks began. An AI model examined at gear systems from Greece, India, and Mesoamerica and found that they all worked in the same way. Some researchers now believe that the Antikythera Mechanism is proof of a language that engineers utilize that is no longer spoken. It's like remembering a passage from a book you forgot about, and then understanding that parts of that book are everywhere. There is a level of coordination in how these things are manufactured, what they are made of, and what they are used for that can't be explained by chance. The AI also uncovered tools in the Andes in Central Asia that were made with the same tin-copper alloy that was used in Antikythera's gears. This is even more amazing. At the same time, this mix of metals wasn't extremely common in those places. This will never happen on its own. Maybe they had the same teacher, or maybe they were part of a civilization that no longer exists but passed on its knowledge to other nations. This changes how we think about history if it's true. The Antikythera Mechanism is not the first of its sort. It might be the last in a long line of amazing devices that have been made. We only found it when a ship sank. How many more gadgets, maybe even more complicated ones, have been lost to time, buried in the earth, or eaten by the sea? One thing can't tell the whole story. It seems like science fiction to think about a network that has been forgotten, but the AI's data exposes links that we can't ignore. Researchers now talk about prehistoric globalization, which suggests that individuals from different civilizations used to trade, communicate information, and perform study with each other. This idea might help us understand why myths from all across the world tell of gods in the sky, flying machines, and floods that come out of nowhere. These stories aren't just random, they all tie together in a bigger way. Everything is connected by the Antikythera Mechanism. These cultures could not have been ancient in the way we think of it. They might have been the last pieces of a planet that was far older and more advanced, a world that fell apart, leaving behind clues in places we never thought to look. People are now using AI to look at old museum artifacts again. It has already marked a number of things that were assumed to be ceremonial as possibly mechanical. This changes the course of history. What if knowledge didn't grow slowly and steadily, but instead surged and smashed like a wave? The Antikythera Mechanism, the Baghdad Battery, and other strange things might not be ahead of their time. They might be remains from a time when things were better. These things show that ancient people were brilliant and had connections that we are only starting to understand. We might only be scratching the surface. This device predicted solar flares, magnetic flips, and cosmic chaos. And the next alignment is just around the corner. Why this is worse than we thought. This device has always been interesting to historians, but now it's making them worried. Some people thought that what used to be a hard-to-understand cosmic calendar was really something much worse. Recently, AI has been decoding the gear ratios and finding disturbing patterns. These patterns include cycles that happen before and after eclipses, and also times of disaster. These gears could show big solar flares, possible comet paths, and even changes in the magnetic field. The tool might not have been just a star chart. It could have been a timer for something terrible to happen. AI experts used the machine's gear settings to run simulations and saw something strange. A number of the gear patterns looked like cycles of natural disasters that we know about today, such as cosmic threats that happen at the same time every time. It wasn't just a guess about what eclipses might be. One set of numbers matched the times of big solar storms that happen about once every 150 years. These are some more comets that look like this. Some of them get close to Earth enough to be called potentially hazardous. The way the gears were set up stored these time ranges, right down to the year. Two exact alignments caught the researchers off guard. The first one points to the year 2000, which is when Earth is expected to pass through a space where the Sun is very active. This second one lines up with the year 2113, which is a time when unusual pairings of the planets are likely to happen and magnetic conditions may not be stable. These aren't just guesses. They're based on old patterns of prediction that seem to be built into the machine. A scary thought comes to mind. What if this system wasn't meant to be used all the time, but only as a warning? If the data wasn't important, why would someone go to the trouble of fitting so much of it into such a small device? Some people believe that the people who made the machine knew bad things were going to happen and already did. It might have been a message to people who would still be alive after their society was gone. If that's true, then this wasn't just a tool for the living, it was a sign for the people who were there. The AI also noticed that some gears were wearing out in strange ways. This meant that the mechanism wasn't being used very often. It was set, locked, and then hidden. Where did they discover it? It is buried deep in the wreckage, out of the way of air and rust. There are now experts who believe this wasn't an accident. They think it was hidden on purpose to keep it from being stolen or damaged. It was buried like a time capsule until someone who knew how to read it could open it. This isn't just past history. It looks a lot like today. Tech, global networks, and environmental problems are all making a lot of progress right now. It's possible that that mix has tried and failed before. Our timeline might be being echoed by the gears to tell us that we're making the same mistakes that killed the people who built it. It's much scarier how still the machine is. It doesn't say anything. It keeps going around. It moves towards a new date, cycle, or event with each turn of its gears. And if it was right and those people went, what does that mean for the next thing? Another idea that is becoming more common is that people in the past may have known more about how bad things happen in cycles than we do now. They didn't have phones or satellites, but they did have time. Many years ago, people used to look up at the sky and count the stars to see what came and went. Their knowledge wasn't worse. It was just stored in different ways that we are only now beginning to understand. After the accident, the Antikythera might have been their black box, a record of what took place. What number of these things are still lost at sea or hidden in the sand? If we've only found one, what else have we missed? Maybe the thing was part of a system of things spread out in the area that were meant to watch, predict, and keep people safe. But this one was the only one that lived. It spent 2,000 years hidden in a wreck. Also, we may be getting closer to the truth now that we've opened it, either just in time or way too late. The Antikythera Mechanism may be more than just a piece of history, a warning from the past about the way things are going. Even though the gears aren't moving, the message is still going off.